Hi everyone. We'll be starting in a couple minutes. Just want to let everyone get in. I know there's technical issues, so give it a couple minutes and then we'll start. Okay. Yeah, let's get started. Just making sure. Okay, yeah. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Enabling Innovation Without the Shadow AI. My name is Yawar Kamran, and I'm a solutions consultant at Divine Integration, Inc. Over the next hour, we'll explore one of the most pressing issues facing organizations today, which is called shadow AI, how it emerges, why it spreads so quickly, and how to channel that energy towards secure, responsible innovation. As AI becomes a core business enabler, the line between experimentation and exposure is blurring. We're here to talk about how to stay on the right side of that line, how to empower your teams to innovate freely while keeping governance, ethics, and compliance intact. Our goal today is to give you practical insights so you leave the session not just aware of this problem, but equipped with strategies to address it. So moving on. I'm thrilled to be joined by Chirag Arora, chair of the Global CISO Leadership Foundation and a trusted advisor to CISOs and security leaderships around the world. Chirag has helped countless organizations build cyber resilient and ethically aligned AI governance frameworks. Uh, Originally, our SVP and CISO, Shantanu Govekar, was also scheduled to join us, but unfortunately, he's under the weather today. We wish him a speedy recovery, but I'll be sharing some of his perspectives and experiences from Divine's ongoing AI governance work on his behalf. So between Chirag's global leadership perspective and insights from our Divine initiatives, we'll unpack both the risks and the opportunities around shadow AI. So I just wanted to cover some quick housekeeping rules. The session is being recorded, and we'll share both the recording and slides afterward. Uh, Please use the Q&A feature for questions at any time. We'll dedicate time right at the end to address as many of them as possible. And if you'd like to speak, please use the raise hand feature. We'll invite you when we unmute the attendees. If you're dealing with any tech issues, like if your audio or video drops, leave and rejoins. And if the problem persists, please message our host in the private chat. So moving on to our motivation as why we even created this webinar. A story's been circulating about a $12 million shadow AI build that nobody owned. Shadow AI is essentially the 2025 sequel to Shadow IT, and the plot really hasn't changed. Just last week, a CIO stated through an internal audit that they discovered 41 different AI tools in use across departments, none reviewed and none approved. When they calculated the costs, licenses, duplicated functions, lost productivity, and unmanaged data, they found an annual impact of nearly $12 million per year. That's not an outlier. It's becoming normal. Every team wants to experiment, and every employee now has AI access on their laptop or phone. But the governance frameworks haven't caught up with this new reality. In the 2010s, Shadow IT was about moving systems outside IT's control. Shadow AI is about moving decisions outside organizational control. It's no longer just an infrastructure challenge, it's a decision intelligence challenge. So here's the hard truth. If your organization can't list every major AI-driven process, model, or decision-making path within 24 hours, then shadow AI is already your default operating model. It's not a hypothetical risk, it's a daily reality. And it's sneaky. Shadow AI doesn't only mean rogue ChatGPT use. It includes AI embedded inside trusted platforms like Microsoft Copilot, Salesforce Einstein, and Adobe Firefly. These systems make decisions automatically, sometimes with sensitive data, and often without visibility to security or compliance teams. So moving on, how big is this issue? So let's put some numbers behind it. 36% of employees admit that they regularly use tools that aren't approved by IT. This is done through research in CyberArk 2025. 58% of employees professionals say they rely on AI daily. 75% of knowledge workers now use generative AI at work, according to Microsoft. and 94% of enterprises already run at least one AI app outside of IT, according to Cisco in 2025. Gartner itself predicts that 75% of employees will use tech beyond IT visibility by 2027, which the main theme is shadow AI isn't fringe anymore, it's mainstream and accelerating. These stats reveal a massive gap between adoption and control. AI is spreading faster than any previous technology, cloud, mobile, and even SaaS, and traditional IT governance can't keep pace. So, what's driving this phenomenon? It's not rebellion, it's more so a reaction. People aren't trying to break rules necessarily, they're trying to get more work done smarter, faster, and more creatively. The four main forces that are fueling shadow AI are unmet business needs. Teams need AI insights today, not 6 months from now after an approval cycle. Accessibility tools are also another reasons. Open source models, browser extensions, and public APIs make AI almost instantly available to any employee. The culture of speed, modern organizations value rapid iteration. When governance slows things down, teams find shortcuts. And then there's also awareness gaps. Many employees simply don't realize that feeding sensitive data into a chatbot or model can lead to exposure or regulatory risk. So the question isn't how do we stop shadow AI? It's how do we enable innovation responsibly? Because when people go around the system, it's often a sign the system needs to evolve. Just like you see, people aren't breaking rules, they're bypassing roadblocks. So I wanted to move on to our conversation with Chirag. Chirag is a Global CISO Leadership Foundation chair. He's a global ambassador of the Center for Internet Security, and he's a fellow at the Panamanan Institute with 20 years of experience in enterprise security, governance, and AI policy development. So I do want to hand it off to him.
Hi guys,
Chirag,
can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So
All right, thank you.
apologies everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. I was just saying, apologies everybody. I don't know what's happening with the Zoom. It just keep on asking me to switch accounts. So I apologize. And I finally decided I'll just log in through the phone. So instead of a webinar, it's now a podcast basically.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's just straight jump into the topic we are going to cover. So shall I start with my background, Jawar?
No, I already got that covered. We'll just go straight into questions if you're ready with that.
Yes, I am ready.
Okay. All right. So first question is, what are the hidden risks of shadow AI, Chirag?
So the market, like the way the market is shifting in terms of leveraging the use of generative AI. Over the last couple of months, market has evolved from using generative AI to using AI agents and then leveraging the agentic AI and doing a lot of automation. So from that perspective, how the dependency has been increased on agents, the challenges for any CISO out there right now, number one is data exposure. I'll give you like a very simple example, and I think that will help understand how the use of AI is actually ending up into a breach or data exposure, and how further damage can be done in terms of leveraging these generative AI like techniques and methods and so forth. So if, let's say, a regular customer back in the days would submit a request for accessing some piece of information, right? The request would go to the backend system to process, right? And when the backend system is processing that request, it would then send it to internal systems, right? So number one, it may send it to your HubSpot to gather information. Okay. From HubSpot gathering the information, it would then send it to back to doing that query and getting information from Confluence, for example. Let's say something related to a customer now needs to be done. So it's querying the Confluence, getting that procedure, and then replying back. Okay. Now think this example in the AI agent world and the risk associated with that. A user gave a prompt, a customer gave a prompt. It then created a backend ticket. That ticket now wants to query to HubSpot. There was no validation, and therefore HubSpot might have company's proprietary data. So number one place where the data exposure could happen is that exposure, that HubSpot area, right? From there, the query goes now to pulling some information from Confluence. Now, again, if it is an injection, it could then result into getting additional information from Confluence, right? So now you have data that could be exposed in your HubSpot, data that could be exposed in your Confluence, and then the data is now returned back because it's an agent. No human eye is looking at it. Data is now returned to the untrusted or the person who actually submitted that bad request. Okay, so now that person has the data. It takes it even further in terms of the risk. The taking it further is it actually pollutes the memory of the agent also. So if the memory is now infected, which means now in future, if anybody else is sending the data request, right, and the agent is processing, and because you have infected the memory, and in the infection you have mentioned that if anybody sends a similar request, you do these 3 steps, and the steps include that you send the data back to the bad guy also. So, the data exposure in terms of risk, whether it's an internal person, whether it's an external facing application, leveraging AI or the AI agent, the exposure is expanding, and that is where the CISO challenges are kind of evolving, number one. Number two, your identity risks are increasing. The identity risk, for example, of an agent versus an identity of a human, if a lot of tasks are being done by the agent. Earlier, we used to have like role-based access control, this and that. The agents now are actually holding keys to the kingdom, and those identity and access gaps currently are like very high in terms of the use. You had earlier for privileged access management. Now those products are also trying to catch up with the latest challenges. And the crazy part is that the businesses want to just quickly go and take advantage of the AI agents, where security products are still catching up because the newer and newer innovation ideas are coming up, newer ways of using agents are coming up. On those use cases, the security needs to learn of those use cases. Vendor needs to understand those use cases and then leverage those use cases into their products so that they can protect their customers. And then third aspect would be your compliance, your regulatory requirements, your auditability. Now, if there is a challenge with the AI, from identity perspective, there is a challenge between how the data is being exposed. Of course, that would result into your compliance and your auditability challenges as well. And then lastly, if you look at your teams trying to leverage AI, which is not yet validated, right? There is risks around AI bias. There is risk around hallucination, right? Simple example, there was a ChatGPT prompt that was leveraged by a lawyer based out of New York. And it ended up resulting in fake legal citations. And that resulted into a fine. So that is just one simple example. If you look at your internal teams and they are trying to query the data, and they have any ethical kind of issues, they are trying, internal employee risk is also a risk that is very, very high. So, and those prompts, if there is a phishing attempt that would happen, and that would generate a prompt from a valid user, it would then cause, like the backend generative AI like prompt, that could also result into some operational things. So there is a bunch of different challenges that are happening at this point. I just wanted to cover a few so that way at least everyone is clear on some of the main ones and how they are currently impacting organizations. Okay, I hope that
Very
was
good.
helpful.
Very helpful. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question. So, what financial risks have you seen existing from Shadow AI outside the, of course, Genover's $12 million payments that we just covered?
Well, back in the days when PCI, everybody was focused on credit card data compromise. There were implications in terms of payment brand fines. There were implications in terms of reputation. There were implications in terms of customer liability and so forth, right? And from there, it went to ransomware. Now, because of AI, there are newer challenges that are coming in. And your financial impact is going to even increase because now with using the AI, the things are going to be much faster, much more sophisticated. And because these are much more sophisticated, it would result into much more recovery period timeline or the financial losses and so forth. So, I mean, from a CISO's mindset perspective, there are more chances now of data leak and data exposure. As I said, if there is a simple prompt that could result into a data exposure. I can give you actually another example that is also an easy one to understand. You have a third party that is not very sophisticated in terms of their security controls. You have a business where you leverage that third party to do some kind of processing for you. You as a business have your own data lake. You have created your own internal GPT. Now there are connections through the MCP gateway to different third parties. That other third party, right, does not have good security controls, and there is data leaks that are happening from that third party side. It's going to result into compromising your data, right? So now what I'm trying to give through this example is now there are more ways how the data is going to be compromised. And now there are going to be more ways on how the regulatory requirements that are going to be the violations are going to happen. And therefore the financial losses are going to actually increase exponentially rather than going with the same pace. Like we saw with PCI, you can still kind of come up with a quantified approach that this much risk is there and therefore it's going to turn into this much losses. Whereas now with the use of AI by development teams, use of AI by customers, by third parties, the risk is exponential, and so as the quantification of that risk is exponential, and it's going to be very, very hard for even the underwriters to determine the loss ratios in terms of financial risk that's going to come and how that risk is going to be quantified in terms of identifying the coverage and so forth. So there is a deeper impact happening at this point.
Right. Let's move on to the next question. What are the opportunities inside these hidden risks that you've seen?
Well, it's to be honest, for any business, if you look at it, the story is repeating. I don't know how many of the audience has seen companies moving from on-prem data center to a hybrid mode or a fully cloud mode. And I'm not sure how many startup guys are there in the audience, but a lot of startups ended up moving towards cloud because they wanted to save money and so forth and do faster innovation, right? So if you look at it, moving from on-prem data center to a cloud was a journey, and there were opportunities and risks. a lot of different challenges happened. Businesses kept on moving towards cloud. Security was still catching up with the use cases. Very, very simple example of multiple breaches that happened, and it became like a news out there was your S3 bucket being left open. And there is data inside, and somebody just simply went there, saw the open S3 bucket. There you go, take the data. They didn't have to do anything, right? Very, very simple compromise that resulted by the business. However, if you look at the business side of it, businesses needed to innovate. They did not want to pay the cost of complete data center, running the cost of a server, a physical server, dependency on the physical server. So they moved to the cloud. Same thing is happening now. Now the businesses are saying, well, I don't want to write the code and spend money on a developer. I'm going to leverage no code solutions so that I can do my coding much faster, right? Now I'm going to leverage like different workflow automation tools that are leveraging AI so that my cost would decrease and my resource cost, my competing against my competitors, so that way I can innovate faster and approach my milestones much quicker. So those opportunities are there, and businesses are seeing those opportunities. They are leveraging those opportunities to innovate. They are leveraging those opportunities to cut down their costs. They are leveraging those opportunities for automation. So these are these are the not just the hidden risks. I would say these are the very, very visible opportunities. That is why the businesses are trying to leverage AI, taking a risk, but still a lot of them are like, if they don't innovate faster, they will die. So they are thinking like, well, is it the security risk or is it my business risk? I'm not going to put my entire business at risk. I am going to leverage AI. We will deal with it. Similar mindset happened when businesses were going from on-prem data center to hybrid or fully cloud environment. I hope that was helpful.
Of course, it was very helpful. We've seen that at Divine as well, where obviously we want to dive into AI, but we need to assess all the risks associated before going in. So next question, is governance a police, partner, or both?
So I did my first CISO role, and my boss used to tell me that, Chirag, we are not not even the moral police for the organization. We are not the police. We are the partners. We need to enable the business. So for any CISO out there, the aspect here is to understand that CISO needs to be the business enabler, right? Similarly, when you look at AI, AI needs to be the business enabler, right? And securing that AI and implementing that governance needs to consider that innovation, that business enablement factor, right? So I would say this is a very clear thing where a partnership is required. Market is changing, companies are changing, how they operate, it's changing. And looking at all of that, if somebody needs to come in and build governance like still letting the business innovate, it's no different than a typical CISO job. Whether you have now a CTO or a CIO or a CISO leveraging now, keeping the hat of the AI officer, or if you have an AI officer that you have onboarded, the governance aspect doesn't change. And we are seeing a lot of CISOs, CIO and CTOs now using that AI hat and kind of shifting their focus towards AI governance, AI innovation, and so forth. So from that perspective, AI governance is going to be a partnership. It's going to be another enablement factor, and where it becomes a showstopper, that's where the challenges would happen. And these are no newer challenges for a CISO, because they have already seen that their entire life, that they cannot be a CISO which stops the business. Instead, they need to be the CISO that enables the business. I hope that's somewhat helpful for everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, very insightful about governance. Moving on, how does one bring conscience while also being curious?
Well, if you look at bringing conscience and still being curious, in my view, it is the right balance you need to have. Balance of innovating versus balance of accepting the risk. You cannot simply be curious enough and try to do things that would impact your already running successful business, right? Whereas you need to have your conscience to that level where you can simply say that, yes, I am going to use generative AI, I am going to build agents, I am going to leverage agentic AI to make sure that I am able to focus on growing this business. So you have to have, it's like, balance between your risk versus secure, like, your risk versus your business, how much risk you're willing to take, your risk appetite. Same way, how much like risk appetite you have in terms of your conscience versus your curiosity. So it's a similar balance that you need to maintain. I don't see it for especially for CISOs out there. It's not a culture shift for them. They have seen these challenges over and over. They have lived through these challenges. They have worked with their partners like CIO, CTO, COO, CEOs, and they have kept the balance so that they can keep their entities secure while they keep on innovating. It's a similar conscience versus curiosity for them at this point. And my life has always, like, I've worked as a CISO my entire life. So I'm going to give every perspective from the mindset of a CISO and all the CISOs out there, how they shift and how they can benefit from these conversations. Okay.
Thank you, Chirag. Yeah, your perspectives are very valuable from your standpoint. Moving on, how does a framework help balance AI adoption?
So, quite frankly, once again, I'm going to repeat a little bit of a kind of a CISO mind map kind of thing. If you are going and you don't understand what is happening in the organization and you're reacting to one business unit doing something versus HR doing something versus another employee doing something versus another third party doing something, and you're reacting to these, you're never winning a race. A good CISO, like Gartner used to provide your CISO's 100-day strategy, right? First 100 days, how they are going to look like. Similarly, we need to look at those first 100 days now from an AI officer hat perspective. You put yourself, whether you are a CIO, whether you are a CTO, whether you are a CISO, you put yourself into this hat and see the market. And you first need to build that framework. You need to focus on that framework so that you're holistically enabling an organization towards achieving their goal. If you're not holistically looking at it, you're going to be always a reaction, and reaction means a showstopper. That's where the challenges would even increase. So looking at a good framework, doing a proper thorough assessment of that framework, socializing that framework in the organization, and ensuring there is buy-in from other leadership, right? Those are the important factors from framework perspective, and they enable your business.
Thank you, Chirag. So what results or outcomes have you seen that the framework brings?
So implementing a framework, it's, as I said, it solves the problem from the deep roots. It's not going to be that it's like, one thing like coming up, you're reacting to it. The framework is going to, like, go to the core and establish a foundation for an organization. And the more the organization evolves, the more that framework is going to evolve for them, and the more maturity would come. You know what that would result in? It would result into proper governance as well. Because now once you have established a framework, you have built your controls, you're running those controls, that means now you are able to repeat those controls. And when you repeat those controls, you turn into proper governance and it would enable the governance, it would enable security, it would enable business growth, it will enable maturity. Those are, like, some very key and important factors that would play in terms of, thinking what a framework, could provide to an organization. Like I've dealt with many clients, and we provided framework assessments to them. Now the companies are moving towards, they're saying, well, if I am leveraging NIST CSF versus I'm leveraging CIS control or ISO, I don't want you to simply do a security assessment. I want you to map AI framework on top of it and then give me a holistic roadmap. That is happening out there in with very high pace at this point, and every leader is asking for that. Earlier, they used to ask give me a roadmap of maturity for my security so that I don't end up into a breach. Now they are saying, don't give me just security, include the AI framework in it and give me a consolidated approach, because that's what my entire leadership needs to focus. Okay.
Thank you, Chirag. Yeah, so thank you, Chirag, for all your insights for the questions. He'll answer more questions from the Q&A portion. I just wanted to cover some of the key takeaways. The hidden risks of shadow AI, obviously we covered. Shadow AI is inevitable, but mismanagement isn't. We govern data and identity, not just the tools. And what creates sustainable innovation is through visibility and trust together. We embed governance into every AI workflow before it scales out of our control. Shadow AI doesn't mean employees are going rogue. It means your enterprise needs to evolve faster. And just a quick recap, we know that shadow AI is now mainstream. It's no longer marginal. The primary drivers of this are speed, accessibility, and culture. And some of the core risks include it being a money pit, data exposure, identity breaches, and compliance gaps. Effective response includes risk-based governance plus federated enablement. And our leadership imperative is to empower innovation within secure boundaries.
Out of 100 security teams, 80 security teams will be dumped, and they don't need
Chirag, I think you're need to be sure. So we're gonna move on to the Q&A portion. I'm gonna give about a minute or two for some of the questions to flow in, but after that, I will start reading them out.
We have enabled the chat, so the audience can drop in their questions.
Sure. Give it about a minute or two. Okay, it seems like we got our first question. Thank you. The question is, Chirag, if you're ready. Chirag, you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so our first question is, many leaders feared that governance slows down innovation. What practices have you seen that accelerate innovation through governance?
So number one response is too much governance is problem. Don't do too much governance. Unstrategic governance is a problem. Don't do unstrategic governance. Reactionary ways is a problem. Don't do action reaction. It never works. If you are a solid, good leader, you need to take a step back, understand the challenges, understand the problem, convert it into a strategy, convert it into how they would map to the framework, use your business logic, map it to the framework, and then enable governance. You can't simply go ahead and say you stop the business. You need to do this. No, you understand the business. You have that risk register in your mind where you understand how much risk a business can accept, right? And you make decisions accordingly in terms of making people aware about what the risks are and then slowly making progress on it. I think if you are going to be too aggressive, you're going to halt your business, which is going to be a challenge. If you're too slow, it's going to be like a very messy situation down the line. So what the right balance is, you need to be, as I said, strategic. Number one, you need to be having that risk acceptance flow in your mind, and you need to educate others on those risks. And again, follow the approach into every control in your framework, and then holistically solve the challenge.
Thank you, Chirag. We have one more question here. What early warning signs should leadership watch to detect shadow AI before it causes damage?
My honest advice, this is a very, very broad question. Your early issues which you want to see is you do not make big, very large mistakes. Still do some security assessment. Your security teams needs to be looking at how the MCP server is being deployed. Your standard SDLC needs to be focused on building those layers. But overall, run an assessment. Run an overall assessment. If you are point in time right now, if you look at it, it's only a couple of months since the agentic AI use has evolved that much. You run an assessment now, you will come up with the findings, you use those findings, you identify what are my top risks there, you know that these are my immediate threats, you focus on those immediate ones, and remaining you put into your roadmap. As simple as that.
Okay. Yes, and then we got another question. How can CIOs, CISOs, and business leaders work together to avoid governance gridlock in AI?
Can you please repeat the question? And this is the last question
yeah.
I can take. Remaining questions can be emailed, and I'm happy to set up meetings with people because I have a hard stop in 2 minutes. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, the question is, how can CIOs, CISOs, and business leaders work together to avoid governance gridlock in AI?
So the goal is, number one, you understand what you're trying to achieve. If you do not have not invested in a point person, whether your internal CIO, CTO, CISO becomes an AI officer, like, your chief information security officer is your chief AI and security officer, or your CTO is leveraging the AI hat, right? They need to understand the risk. They need to socialize and ensure other leaders in the organization understand the risk. And that's how they will collectively work together to enable the business. Okay.
Thank you, Chirag. Thank you. Yeah,
you are most welcome. Thank you, everybody. And I'm so sorry to cut it short. I actually have a hard stop, and I apologize for the initial hiccup and not being on the camera. But when we do the next session, I'm gonna make sure that you have my video access as well. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, if you have any other questions, we can email all of them to Chirag. Again, thank you everyone for your patience, and thank you for joining. My name's Yaur again, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at yaurk@divine.com, and I really appreciate everyone attending. Okay, all right, we can adjourn. Thank you all again, and yeah, we'll see you for the next session.